All right, what's going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to go much deeper on the two types of businesses that can work to grow a solopreneur one-person business to 500K a year and beyond. Okay, your two options are the expert business, where you scale with price, or the marketing business, where you scale with systems. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what they are, exactly how each of them make money, what skills you would need in order to do either of them, how each of them get clients, and what some real life examples of businesses look like. Now, me personally, I have run both types of these businesses, and I've worked with hundreds of solopreneurs who also have gone down this path, scaling from 100K all the way up to 500K and beyond. So I've seen under the hood of a lot of these. I know how they work. I know the pros and cons. I know where people get stuck. And spoiler alert, it's kind of by living right here in the middle. But let's get right into it, shall we? And start at the top. So before we get any further, we need to talk a little bit about why you would want a solopreneur business, a one-person business, and what are some of the downsides of doing it, okay? Because, one of the big themes of this video is going to be about constraints, basically. And this is going to work for people who want a certain type of business. So first of all, what are the pros? What are the pros of a solopreneur business? Well, first of all, you can focus on and optimize for profit, for cash flow, okay, and for hours worked. Okay, so really good if you're trying to run a lifestyle business or you're trying to run a business where you are not focused about putting every single hour investing back in the business to grow something massive. Okay, what's nice is also you can keep your business small. So it can be just you or one person plus a tiny team. I generally say that would be anywhere from 1 to 5 people, whether they're some combination of contractors, freelancers, VA, maybe one or two full-time people. Not a lot. Another benefit is you are pulling all of the cash out of the business, right? Because we're not growing an asset, okay, which means you get to bring in more cash. And ideally, you're designing this business where the leverage is you, which is something that I'll talk about a little bit more. But when the leverage is you, ideally, that means you're doing something that you actually like, okay? And isn't that the whole point of working? Okay, downsides. To be clear, all right, when you are building a business like this, when you are trying to scale a business in this way, and the way I'm going to explain, you are not building an asset, okay? So this business is not sellable, generally speaking, in this form, okay? And it's not an asset, all right? But in order to build wealth, just so you know, you need assets, right? That's how you build long-term wealth. So you'll need to build wealth elsewhere. I have a whole nother video about this. You can look it up. But basically, if you're generating a ton of profit, a ton of cash flow in a solopreneur business, you need to take that and you need to put it into assets somewhere else, whether that's your retirement account, real estate, other businesses, other assets, things like that. Okay. And then the other downside is this is not an exitable business. You are the center of the business, whether you like it or not. So even when I was running my design agency that was doing like $500,000 a year and I was running it in like, 10 hours a week or whatever, I still needed to be present for those 10 hours a week, no matter what. So at the end of the day, the downside is these businesses are not assets. And even if you're working 10 hours a week, you're still working 10 hours a week. Okay. So the benefit of this, right, is at the end of the day with a solopreneur business, the hero and the leverage is going to be you. Okay. These businesses work the best when you're operating from your zone of genius. And I've seen a lot of solopreneurs getting to that 500K a year mark and beyond. And I really believe with the advent of AI and some of the new kind of ways that we can leverage doing some things more efficiently. I don't think it's going to take away the core of the business, but we're going to be seeing a lot more 1 million plus solopreneur businesses like this. Alrighty. So I want to talk about breaking the 100K block, which is a big, big break point for a lot of solopreneurs that I work with. All right. So 100K and below, generally speaking, what happens, and sometimes all the way up to 200K, people are able to grow their business doing modeling what they see, which is, more often than not, we model what a job looks like. So people get to 100K a year, basically simulating that they have a job. They tend to do similar patterns, similar stuff that job people do. And as a result, they eventually get stuck. Okay. This is like what I call in everything business, right? So when you're stuck at that 100K mark, you don't have enough leverage to get further. And as a result, you end up maxed out on time, and maxed out on money. And the reasons are pretty simple. Okay. Prices are too low. Clients are too many, and no time to fix it. Okay. And this is a result of showing up with your business, modeling how job people work. Most people try to figure out how to be efficient enough to kind of have like 3 or 4 jobs at once, and they call it a business. Okay. But this is not going to build the business that you want, right? Because you'll end up stuck at 100, 200K. It happens all the time. I see a lot with my clients. Okay. But all these reasons are symptoms of a deeper cause. And this is what I want to talk about. Okay. I want to talk about trade-offs, because these reasons are symptom of a deeper cause. And the reason is you are trying to model your regular job and do both fulfillment, which is delivering on whatever you do, and marketing, which is going out into the world and trying to get a bunch of clients at a high level. And as you grow and as you scale, having this strategy of do everything at a high level becomes not a strategy. So ultimately, you're going to need a path. Okay. And there are 2 options that you can go down. And this is the big, big shift. When you want to go from 100K to 500K and beyond, you need to pick a path and take some trade-offs. So expert business is the first option. And what that means is scaling with price. That means you are leveraging your value that you create for clients, your deep expertise, and you are constantly pushing the lever of price in order to grow the business. Now, the other side of the coin, and I'm going to explain both of these in a ton of detail. I'm going to go deep on each of these 2 different types of businesses, is marketing, which is scaling with building systems. Okay. And in this instance, you are focusing on your ability to drive attention, okay, and your ability to create products with 0 fulfillment in order to grow the business and then build the systems around it that hold everything together. So you are not working one-on-one with clients. You are not doing done with you. You are not doing done by you, whatever it's called, done for you. Yeah, done for you. But the important thing here, and this is the difference between people that get stuck around 100K, 200K, and go beyond, is you actually have to give something up in order to go beyond that 100K mark. And with each of these options, we're going to give something up in order to gain something else. Because as a solopreneur, there is always the bottleneck of our time. It's always the biggest hurdle that everyone has. So with an expert business, we are going to give up volume. Okay. We're going to give up 1 million clients. And in exchange, what we're going to get is higher prices. And on the marketing business, what we're going to give up is fulfillment. Okay. That means we're giving up done for you, done with you type stuff. Okay. In order to gain volume, AKA a lot of clients or a lot of customers. And while for many of you, this seems like a trade-off that you might not be willing to make because it feels like you're losing something. What do you mean I can't work with clients anymore, Rich? Or what do you mean I can't like just have a bunch of small low ticket clients? In both of these instances, even though it seems like you're losing something, what you're actually gaining is space. And as entrepreneurs, space, okay, is leverage, because you're able to think holistically about your business and make better decisions in the long term. Okay. You need space to think. You need space to do your best work, to come up with better ideas. Anyone who's trapped in that burnout kind of maxed out on time, maxed out on money mode will know that Space is the missing ingredient. All right. So let's get into it. And we're going to go really, really deep dive on the expert business, scaling with price. And then after that, I'm going to go really, really deep on the other option, which is the marketing business. Okay. Scaling with systems. All right. So, expert business, what is this all about? What is this all about? Good question, Rich. Okay. Caveat, this path, if you are a real expert, like someone who is really, really freaking good at what you do, um, this is usually the path for you. So if you're someone who's like, I hate social media, I hate marketing, I hate updating my website, but you're really good at some core skill, it could be anything, designer, developer, um, video creator, but a real expert. You have deep, deep, deep expertise. This is probably the path that's going to work the best for you. The benefit is that you don't have to do a ton of marketing and social media. The downside, if you want to go from 100K to 500K, is the bottleneck will be most likely sales. Okay. So for each of these two types of businesses, there are going to be core skills. And for the expert business, your core skills are going to be your expertise. Okay. So being really effing good at what you do, world class. Okay. This isn't for people who are just generalists. Second core skill is sales, like I mentioned. And you need to have this combination of both in order to support the path to scale, which is scaling with price as opposed to scaling with clients. And this first path is basically to scale your business by charging more. So instead of spreading yourself thin across tons and tons of low paying clients, you concentrate on a select few who value your expertise and pay accordingly. Okay. Most people have a setup where they have like, I don't know, they have 10 clients, paying them, 10K a year or something. We want to get to the point where we have, I don't know, 5 clients paying us 100K a year, right? So that can really simply be what this looks like. And most people, they have way more than 10 clients and it's too many. But we want to get to here. And if you know that this is the North Star for an expert business, which is basically scaling with price, having less volume, and getting all the benefits that come from that, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that you need to do. Okay. So here's how this works. The business grows by increasing price and value. Those are the two levers that you're going to be constantly pushing on. So just pushing up price and pushing up the value that you're providing for your clients. And the benefit is that you, as a result, are able to do very, very minimalist marketing. Okay, these businesses work a lot based on relationships, referrals, clients that you work with for years and years on end. But you are 1000% in fulfillment. The way that you generate value for your clients is you are the expert and you are in it. So the main growth levers for this type of business are going to be the price that you charge, the sales, and the expertise. So what do we need in order for this to work? There's a bunch of steps that need to happen in order to make the transition from 100K to 500K with this expert model. All right. And I'll tell you what you don't need. Don't need a huge social media account. You don't need to be posting every day. All right. So number one is you need to transition from the role of order taker to expert. And what I mean by that is you need to go from clients telling you what to do. So this is the best, easiest way to diagnose where you are if you're an order taker or an expert. When you work with a client and you start the project, does it start with them telling you what they want you to do and then you do it? Or does it start with you telling them what needs to happen as a result of your diagnosis of their problem? So it's either them telling you what to do or you telling them what to do. All right. So this is a big, big shift that needs to take place. I find generally with my clients, the missing piece here, there are a couple. Number one, it can be a positioning thing. Where you're just not positioned as an expert, and a lot of times that might look like on your website you're listed as a freelancer. We say, let me build your next website, right? You're talking in the language of deliverables as opposed to the language of outcomes. Okay. The other thing that people tend to miss on, and this is a skill that can be learned, is they don't know how to connect their work to business outcomes. So there's this big disconnection, which is your work, and then there's outcomes. And everyone who does something, when you work with a client, um, there are outcomes that are a result. But the big disconnection is people don't know how to connect what they do to the outcomes for the business. And as a result, you end up being perceived as this person that the client needs to tell you what to do, because you can't diagnose it as well. All right. So this is a huge shift in terms of how you show up. Second thing, and this is a whole rabbit hole in and of itself. And these are just the core skills that you need to learn. And most of these are soft skills. They're not like learning how to code or something. Sales mastery. Probably the biggest lever for scaling with price is ramping up your ability to communicate in a sales situation and to articulate the value of your work. And this is an area where a lot of solopreneurs struggle. They're used to the clients where they get on the sales call. The client just says yes. There's no friction. They don't need to kind of communicate anything. And it's just really, really easy. But usually those types of projects tend to be towards the lower end, because what you don't realize is they're also kind of in the order taker mode where they're like, hey, I need a website. And you're like, oh, you do websites. And you're like, great, I have $2,000. Here you go. That only gets you so far. So sales mastery is the skill here. And there's an entire framework for how to run a sales call to lead to value-based pricing, which is the next point that I'm going to talk about. But essentially, the short version is when you have a sales conversation with the client, you want to diagnose and get really clear with them on the problems that they're struggling with, okay, and the goals that they're trying to accomplish. Get buy-in from them on that. And then you want to bridge the gap and explain how you can provide a solution and help them get an outcome, and anchor that outcome to some type of value that you're going to be creating together. And then after that, based on all of that, get a yes, close them, sign the contract, and you're good. Okay, so sales mastery is huge. If you're struggling with raising your prices, 9 times out of 10, when I do this with clients, I start watching some of their sales calls, and it's a sales issue that needs to be addressed. And it tends to not be that big of a fix. Usually just more reps and understanding the correct flow of the conversation is all it takes. All right, number 3 is value-based pricing. Okay, and what I mean by that is basing your price on the value that you create for the client, as opposed to the number of hours that you worked or the amount of cost that it takes you to do a project plus a profit margin or some arbitrary number for how much you charge for a website. And value-based pricing is for experts. It's for people that are really out here creating a ton of value for their clients. And you need to start thinking about, what is my client getting from the work that I do? And there's a great book, Value-Based Fees. You can look it up. It's on Amazon as a recover, that can help you dive deeper on this topic. All right. Thing number 4 that you're going to need is self-esteem and conviction. This is one of the biggest things. It's really hard for people to feel like their work is worth a certain amount of money. Okay. And I always hate when people go out there and they say, just charge what you're worth. You're worth it, buddy. Because I really believe that we kind of have infinite value as humans. But where people do get mixed up is they are unable to charge what their work is worth. And this goes back to the idea of value-based pricing. People are often uncomfortable advocating for the real value that they create for their clients. Like, let's say you're going to build this thing for a client that is going to make them $1 million. And you're going to charge 15 grand because that's what I always charge. You're not advocating for the value of your work, and it's actually an unequal exchange of value there. Generally speaking, you want to be capturing ballpark good amount, 10% of the value that you're creating. I think that's a fair exchange, factoring in risk. So if it's if it's $1 million of value created, 10%, right? Seems like a good number. Um, okay, so that's self-esteem and conviction. Oftentimes this means getting in some internal work, working on your self-esteem, believing that you can say big numbers and believing that the work is worth that. This can be a big hang up for people. I do a lot of work with my clients on this one. All right, number 5 is working in your zone of genius. Okay, so the idea here is if we are focused on scaling with price, we want to create. So if we're scaling with price, right, and price is determined by value, okay, we can create the most value by showing up in our zone of genius, which is where we are creating the most value for the right clients. So working in your zone of genius, I'll give you a perfect example. 3 people that all have the exact same job title. These are both 3 clients that I have that I've worked with in my kind of mentorship engagement. All 3 are designers. All 3 are focused on scaling with price, but they all 3 have totally different zones of genius, despite the fact that they are all designers. Okay. One zone of genius is in sales and relationships. So the leverage for them is really focusing on doing that. And maybe they spend a little bit more money on delegation and building out a team. Okay. Second one, strategy is their zone of genius. So really thinking big picture and working with the client and tying the design that they do to the big picture strategy. Okay. And then another client, their zone of genius is in the artistry, is in the taste, is in the fulfillment, is in them showing up and just being freaking cool. And the clients know that. And as a result, like that's where they should be living. So oftentimes when people see this, they think that somehow I'm saying you all should become like a consultant or whatever. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The point is that you need to be working out of your zone of genius because that's where you're going to create the most value. And as a result, you're going to be able to charge the highest prices so you can scale by price and get to where you want to go, which is 500K. Okay. And then the last one, which is a function of value-based pricing and is just a logical conclusion. Generally speaking, okay, bigger clients are going to have a bigger vehicle for you to pour your expertise into. I use this kind of metaphor, like your value or what you can bring to a client. It's kind of like gasoline, and you can pour gasoline into a lawnmower and it will mow a lawn. You can pour it into a car and it'll drive you across town. And, you can pour it into a rocket ship and fly to the freaking moon. Your value, your work doesn't change, but the vehicle that the client has does. And if you are optimizing for growing your business, if you want to go to 500K or a million or beyond, bigger clients are going to have a bigger vehicle that you can pour your value into. And as a result, you're going to create a bigger impact. Like if I am doing consulting and I'm consulting the lemonade stand down the street, there's only so much value we're going to be able to create together on our street versus if I'm consulting for, a Fortune 500 company, we're going to be able to create a lot more outcomes together. So generally speaking, learning how to work with bigger clients and show up in those rooms and build those relationships is going to be the final piece of the puzzle here. Okay, so that is basically the path to expert business. And these are the core skills that you need to understand in order to do it. At the end of the day, the whole point is we want to scale with increasing our price. And the best way to do that is by increasing the value. The cool thing about this is you only need a few clients in order to reach that 500K. And I'll give you some examples basically of what this path could look like. So the first one would be like an agency type business. And this is pretty much exactly how I ran my design agency when I ran it for over a decade. And in its final, most mature form, I had 5 to 8 clients a year, generating over $500,000 a year, and I was only working 10 to 15 hours a week. Okay, this is talking about scaling with price and designing yourself out of the business. We offered full service design and marketing, and our minimum rate was $60,000 a year. So I would, I set that cap. Like, if your project is less than 60K, it's not a fit for us. And me kind of being in my zone of genius looked like focusing on strategy, very, very high level design, sales, client relationships. So that's where I spent most of my time when I was working for those 10, 15 hours a week, was just in those areas. And then to support this, I built a team of 10 plus freelancers, designers, developers, animators, project manager, you name it, to handle the fulfillment, freeing up my time. And this was a strictly scaling with price play. So continuing to go up the ladder, find better clients, create more value, get better at this craft, and end up at this nice final place where I'm really focused on what matters for me. Okay. A second type of business that could do this with scaling by price is going to be like a consulting business. A 500K a year consulting business would probably look like working with clients in like a leverage consulting model potentially. So charging 10K minimum and managing 20 to 50 clients simultaneously, but all in one. So it's all in one container, right? So you're not really fulfilling 20 at a time. But in leverage consulting, there's basically no fulfillment other than selling your thinking. There's no done for you. So that can get you to, 500K a year, 50 clients, 10K a year, or you charge more and you need less clients. So you're really scaling with that price number. But if you prefer more close, high touch, one-on-one work, I know plenty of consultants that work with very big clients, and it's just high touch, expensive, one-on-one work, consulting. And you could do it with like 5 clients at 100K a year or 10 clients at 50K a year. And if you're listening to this and you're like, wow, Rich, that sounds really unrealistic, and I don't know how I would ever do that. Where would I even find these types of clients? Or I don't even know how, is this even real? Like, okay, if you're feeling that right now, there's 2 ways that you can go. You can be like, that's impossible, I can't do it. That's path number 1, and you can exit out the door right now. Or path number 2 is identifying, wow, I don't know how to do this, but there are people that are doing it, and maybe I can figure out how to do it. And I can tell you that the path to doing it, because I've worked with a bunch of clients, right? And I know a lot of people who do this, it's possible. The path I just laid out for you. Okay. These are the 6 core skills that you need in order to get here. This is it right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order to scale with price. And you're always pushing that lever. Okay. So if you're stuck at 100K, maybe 200K, and you're like a real expert and you want to stay close to the work and you want to stay working closely with clients, I highly recommend you consider focusing on this path, which is the expert business. Okay, second option. Let's go down. And we're going to talk about the other side of the coin, which is the marketing business. And this is like the very sexy business model that everyone thinks they want. And real talk, most people aren't actually good at marketing. Okay. They think they want a course business. They think they want an info business, a product business, digital products. But real talk, marketing is a skill. And if you want to grow a business where you are not involved at fulfillment at all, you better be freaking good at marketing, and you better be invested in continuing to get better and continue to master the craft. And the fact is, everyone loves the idea of selling stuff where they don't have to work, and they don't want to take the time necessary to understand it. With that being said, it is very much doable, and it's a great business, but you have to have these 2 core skills. Okay, how did I structure this? Okay, I wrote core skills. Core skills, all right? So for the expert business, as I mentioned, the core skills are expertise in sales. On this side, they are product and they are marketing. Those are the core skills here. And the way that this works is you scale your business by growing distribution. And in this instance, you are literally creating a product that does not involve you to fulfill at all. So this could be software. This could be a digital product. This could be an online course. This is something where you can sell, it could be books, right? Something that you can sell, and you can sell one of them or 100,000 of them, and it doesn't take any more effort, right? Because the leverage is in the code behind the scenes that allows it to be fulfilled at scale. So the two core skills are product and marketing, because in this path, you are not involved in fulfillment. You can sell 10 units or 10,000 units with the same effort. And you build the systems to support this core flywheel, which is a product that requires no fulfillment, and marketing to drive traffic to the product. And then you build the systems to facilitate this. Okay. In order to do this, you really have to be dialed in on two things. Number one, you have to be obsessed with the product that you are building. Okay. People think they can just go and type in ChatGPT and say, hey, create me a course on, insert thing, and that you can just sell this. All right. Your product needs to be excellent. When I was doing this, I created a course called How to Work Less. It still exists. And I can tell you, it's freaking good. And the reason that How to Work Less is really freaking good is because it is the product of 10 years of my experience running my agency, plus 6 live cohorts, iterating, adding, removing, getting client feedback before I put it down on wax, pre-recorded, as a product that doesn't require any fulfillment anymore. Most people don't want to hear that. They just want to hit record, press publish, and don't have a product builder mindset. Okay. So number one, you have to be a product builder, and you have to think about really creating something exceptional that can be sold at scale. Second thing is you have got to be into marketing. That means maximalist marketing. Your number one daily task, like the number one thing you're going to do, is you are going to market. Okay. Whether that means social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, public speaking, networking. Your job is to make noise, have a large audience, daily content, funnels, the works, right? How did I structure this? Sorry, I forgot what my layout looks like. So the main levers for growth are going to be a big audience, a content machine, systems that support it, alignment between your product and your audience, ruthless consistency in terms of posting, and messaging. And I want to talk a bit about the core skills and what needs to happen for this to work, because it looks like there's 7 that I have written here. Core skills that you need to learn. And whether you want to go down the expert business path or you want to go down the marketing business path, you need to learn these skills. Okay, so number one, which I already mentioned, is product builder mindset. Anyone that I know that really nails it with a marketing business, they are obsessed with their product and tweaking it and making it better, getting customer feedback, doing things that are not scalable in the short term in order to build something super scalable in the long term. Product has to be good, has to solve a problem. That's number one. All right, second skill. No one wants to hear this, but copywriting is a core skill, because creating the connection between your marketing message and your product requires copywriting. You are not doing any hand-to-hand combat. The core skill for the expert business is sales. The core skill for creating sales here is writing and transferring that emotion, transferring that trust, and solving the problem. So this is things like building out landing pages, writing lead magnets, creating content. You need to be a killer writer. And to go right along with that, it is, can you drive attention? Okay. Can you understand psychology of the buyers? Psychology. I don't think that's spelled right. Sorry. Can you capture attention, and can you drive attention? And are you willing to build the skills necessary to improve this? I got to tell you, when I first started posting online, I didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of sucked. I sucked a lot, actually. And I still did it because I knew that I wanted to build that muscle and I wanted to build that skill. And it took me years. And this was someone who had a lot of success, like selling design and creative services. So I wasn't even like totally green to the idea of marketing. But most people don't want to commit the time in order to build the marketing business. All right. So number 4, this is a pretty easy one, but I highly recommend you have a personal brand. Um, the metaphor, the lesson that people always use is the difference between Elon Musk and Tesla when it comes to social media followers. Like, people follow and they buy from people, not brands. And if we are building a solopreneur business, the highest point of leverage, since we're not building something to sell, is to have a personal brand. Another core skill, this is where most people fall off, is consistency. This really rewards consistency and iteration. Okay. 2 other ones that I want to share. 6 is systems. Having a systems builder mindset. And I talk a lot about this and how to work less. The more that you can build systems to automate your business, to design yourself out of it, the better this is going to go for you. So things like workflows, delegation, SOPs, even more important now with like what's available in terms of AI and automations and stuff. Building systems to support this flow is really, really important. And then the last one, which are just core marketing skills, I believe right now. These are just like the hard skills. Like, most of this stuff is soft skills. You know what that means, right? These are hard skills. So it's going to be video, design. You just need to understand these at like a base level of competence, and writing. I think those are the core skills for driving attention right now. And yeah, your goal here is to drive a ton of traffic and bring it into this incredible product that you've built. And most of your day is going to be spent either creating content, driving traffic, creating attention, and then improving your product so it delivers for your clients. All right. And you're not doing any fulfillment. In terms of what this path looks like, there are a few different paths that you can go down. It works with a service style business. It works with digital products, but either works, right? So a $500,000 a year productized service business would be building a productized service with zero fulfillment. So you're going to use systems, templates, and delegations and remove yourself from everything except marketing. So you basically have a productized service that is essentially a commodity, right? Because we're not leveraging our expertise because we're not going to be involved in every client thing. So it's about building a system, and you're removing yourself from everything but marketing. You offer that service at a lower price and focus on marketing and scale to bring in as many clients as possible and making sure that your margins are good on fulfillment. This could be a $500 a month subscription with 80 to 100 recurring clients, or $1,000 a month with 40 to 50, or you can extrapolate out other math for that. And this is a productized service where you're not involved in fulfillment at all, and you're just driving attention and traffic to people that sign up, and then your team or your machine, your systems do the rest. All right, other side, digital products. This looks like building a suite of high quality digital products, courses, software, etc., sold at a low price. Your time is spent building an audience and reaching as many customers as possible. So we are scaling with volume. We are not scaling with price. All of the sales, all the fulfillment, everything is automated. So your job is just create content, make great products. And just note with this path, all of the rewards are on the back end as you build a larger audience. It's basically the law of compounding. The tail end is where all the magic happens. So if you just Google like compounding, generally you have to put in a lot of upfront effort, and then all the rewards happen as you kind of go parabolic at the end. So you see like a ton of growth happen like between here and here. Whereas it might look pretty slow at the beginning. That's the name of the game with this. It's really like focusing on the leverage that comes from distribution and audience. So that's the marketing business. Now, to wrap all this up, both of these businesses are great options, but the only danger zone is once you hit 100K, maybe 200K, generally speaking, you're going to feel like you're maxed out on time and money and you're stuck. And if you try to do both fulfillment and marketing at a high level, you are going to end up burnt out if you stay a solopreneur, or you're going to need to transition into a quote unquote real business, which has different incentives, different rewards, different structures, things like that. But if you want to stay solo at the 100 to 200K mark, you need to either go expert business or marketing business and not hang out in the middle. When my clients, I see them stuck, generally speaking, it's because they want to do something that's in the middle. Okay. The most leverage comes from either committing to scale with price or to scale with systems/marketing and not in the middle. Okay. So that's the lesson. That's how all this works. If you've watched this whole thing, you probably feel like one of these is much more like aligned for you and doable. Most people immediately know like, oh yeah, this is me, or no, this is me. If you want my help to design your business to be like either of these businesses, you're already doing 100K, you feel like you're kind of at that bottleneck, do me a favor, click the link below. I'm bringing on 8 clients before the price of my mentorship goes up by 6K on July 1st. I've already signed some of them, so it's actually less slots now. But if you want to work with me, we can work through this stuff. I work with a group of a lot of solopreneurs doing anywhere from 100K to 500K and beyond. And this is the stuff that we work on. So if you want to grow and scale an expert business or a marketing business, hit the button below. More information about that, and make sure you do it before July 1st. The last time I raised the prices was, February 2024. So price is going up by a lot, 6K. So if you want to get in, now's the time. Either way, this is how you do it. This is how you get to 500K and beyond as a solopreneur. Pick a path, stick with it. And if you want more information on this, I have some other videos on my channel that you can look at on this topic. All right, that's basically it. I hope this helps. Peace.